71%. That's the number I'd like you to think about, 71%. If I were in your shoes, I'd be asking, okay, Jim, so 71% of what? What does that mean? The Gallup organization does a tremendous amount of research and data collection around employee engagement and how our employees are doing, not only in the United States, but across the world. One of their data points is that 71% of the employees in this country report themselves as disengaged or actively disengaged. So we have to think about that for a second, that, almost 3/4 of the employees in this country, what they're saying is, I don't really feel that connected to my organization. I don't feel like I really have investment, buy-in, ownership in it. We're going to look at it for just a couple of moments is, what does that disengaged and actively disengaged employee look like? So disengaged employees, and you're probably familiar with these folks, and maybe you've even been in this spot in your own life at some point, and maybe even now. These are the employees that generally on any given day kind of sort of do their job and get their work done for the most part. It varies within this bucket of disengagement to how much, but they're also the ones too that it's kind of the bare minimum. They're often the ones that we call clock watchers, right? They're the ones that are packing up 15 minutes before it's time to go because they're done. They're the ones waiting 1 minute before they need to start to show up and start. They can extend breaks, extend lunches. They're ones that just don't have a high degree of commitment to the success of the organization. Actively disengaged employees, this is a different group of people, and maybe you know some of these folks, and hopefully none of you watching this are these folks. An actively disengaged person, I simply call them this: they quit and stay. They quit their job, but they still show up every day. And the funny thing is, we do something for them every other week. We pay them, right? These are the folks that are disgruntled, that are angry, resentful, bitter. They're really unhappy, and they want the world to know that they're unhappy. We come up with, you've often heard the phrase, misery loves company. This is that group, right? They're miserable, but they don't like to be miserable alone. So they're catching people at the coffee pot, at the water cooler, in the restroom. They're walking out to the parking lot with people, and they're letting everybody know how sucky everything is. They've got 100 things that are wrong and 100 things that need to be fixed. And here's the amazing thing: if we were to fix all 100 things, it would still all be sucky. All right? These folks are not ones that we're going to make happy. They're not happy, and they have no desire to be happy there. Generally what we find is that these are the folks, let's take for example, we give them a raise, and what do they say? They say, oh, is that it? How come they got more than I did? What took so long? When's the next one? It's never good enough, right? They're just never going to be happy. When we think of employee engagement like this, I think of a bell curve, and on the positive end of the bell curve, you have about 10 to 20% of your employees that are your superstars, your high performers, your highly engaged employees. They feel valued, they like being there, and they work really hard for you. They're your go-to people. And then we have about 60 to 80% in the middle of this bell curve, and some lean more toward the top end, and some will lean more toward the bottom end, right? But these are the folks that generally every day are getting the work done for the most part, but it always seems like we're pushing a rock uphill, right? It never seems to be easy. They don't make it real easy. It kind of depends on which way the wind is blowing, on how they're feeling today. If one of those actively disengaged folks got in their ear, then they're feeling really bad. Maybe something good happens, so they're feeling really good, but tomorrow that can change. And then we have the bottom of the bell curve, which is about another 10 to 20%, which is our actively disengaged folks, and we just talked about them. Here's the amazing thing. People often ask, so what do we do about that? And I could look here and say, here's the deal. Just fire that bottom 10 to 20%. Today they're gone. And what would happen? It's like any bell curve, it would adjust, and there would be a new group of people that would fall into that bucket of actively disengaged. And if we stop there, it's kind of like, well, geez, then what do we do, right? It seems hopeless, and there's nothing we can do, and that's not necessarily the case. Here's the good news. As leaders, managers, and supervisors, where do we spend 80% of our time? I would suggest we spend 80% of our time on that bottom 10 to 20% of people, because the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and you knew that, right? They squawk and make a lot of noise, and we give them lots of time and energy. One simple strategy that you can start today, if you've got one or some of those actively disengaged folks, be determined to say no more. No more. I don't have time anymore for the winching, the whining, the griping, the complaining. It stops today. Because we've got a whole lot of good folks here who want to be successful, who are trying, that I'm not giving time and energy to because I'm getting sucked dry by this bottom 10 to 20%. No more. Commit yourselves to start today to, when those people come to you whining and complaining, to stop them and say, you know what? No more. If you've got something productive to offer, if you've got solutions, if you've got ideas, then let's talk about those. If you want to be an active participant in problem solving and making our organization better, then I've got time for that. But if you're coming just to tear things apart and gripe and complain because you're miserable and you'd like everybody to be equally or more miserable than you, no more. We're going to stop today, and you tell them that. We treat them with dignity and respect when we do it, but we draw a firm line and say, no more. So I hope today will be a new day for you to go deal with those folks and help them understand their behavior is unacceptable and no more, and then take 80% of our time and give it to 80% of the people who want to be successful and invest in them.